And we need art. We need art now, and we need music that tells our story now more than we've ever needed it. And yet we're going to bring in technology. Already, algorithms are killing our ability to even not only listen to a whole song, but to experience it at a spiritual level.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Tom?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. I will say, and listen, don't get me wrong,
Okay.
delighted you have a new record out. Last time you were here, you were sitting right across from me and you said, "Tom, I think this might be it. I don't think I got another one in me."
That person that was in your studio last time was AI. Whatever they wanted. No, I'm kidding. I did, I really felt that way. It's hard to stand in a vocal booth and sing with Johnny Cash in your ear, authentically singing a song that you wrote that he recorded before he passed, and feel like there's anything that can follow that. Especially when you feel that the art form of an album has died over, that certainly over the last decade of making a record that has, documents a journey that's got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then you put it out and it winds up getting cherry picked and put on playlists. And it felt antithetical to a full artistic statement. But what wound up happening with this bunch of songs, and I do call it a bunch of songs that are all coming out on the same day, was I had a bunch of songs I'd written just really recently about things that really concern me or things that I was thinking about. And I called my friend Mike Elizondo, who is just brilliant. I've known him for 20 years at least, longer, and said, would you listen to these songs and do something with them? I didn't want to produce myself. I didn't want to make a record. I just wanted somebody to take my little demos and create beautiful movies around them. And that's what he did. And it was such a gift to give myself that.
Why are you calling this a bunch of songs and not? I got a couple of questions here. Why are you calling this a bunch of songs and not an album?
It is an album. I think of it as, instead of it being, it does document who I am right now. It does document what I'm seeing and how I'm feeling. And it does have a beginning, a middle, and an end. I'm just not sure that it's a movie in and of itself. It's more a bunch of movies. And it's like a collection of songs under the title Evolution, which was the first song that I sent Mike. And it does feel like an album. I think partially because I didn't produce it. It feels authentically like a collection of songs that we've put together, and we're putting out.
The
So I guess it's an album.
yeah, I guess so. Well, you know what? We'll call it whatever you want to call it.
Just trying to confuse you, Tom. Okay.
You know what? You could you could hold up 3 fingers and probably confuse me. So don't worry too much about that. Listen, what I do find interesting about this, and I do want to make sure we talk about the song Evolution. I have a lot to say here, but my understanding is that song Evolution, which was the first song that you sent over, inspired by some of the fears you've been having around artificial intelligence and AI and its intersection with music. How did that first get on your radar?
Well, I mean, I think me, like 100,000 other people, read Stephen Hawking's comment when he made it years and years and years ago. I was actually on a tour to educate about climate change, and here Stephen Hawking comes out and says it's not going to be the climate that is the demise of humankind. It's going to be AI, which seemed completely and totally sci-fi. Well, now we're here, and it was the morning that I saw on social media that the Beatles were using AI to bring back John Lennon. And I, for one, was like, I think that's horrific. Now, obviously the songs come out and it's not exactly, as bad as what that sounded like. But certainly seeing George Carlin come out with a new comedy special is slightly distasteful. And the fact that he's dead, I mean, and he had nothing to do with this. It's terrifying to me. It's terrifying to go into the studio with this young artist who I absolutely love. And she plays me a demo that she has John Mayer singing on, because she paid $5 through AI to upload his voice, and I could not tell the difference in any way, shape, or form. That could have come out, and I would have said, "Oh, that's a good John Mayer song." At a time when already truth is so up for grabs, with algorithms feeding us what we already think and villainizing the other side, I feel like art is our only safe haven. Art is the thing that throughout history has documented who we are at any moment in our evolution as a brain-oriented society, a spirit-driven society, and yet now we're challenging that. And it does terrify me. It terrifies me that artists can be brought back from the dead. It terrifies me that I can sing to you a song that I had absolutely nothing to do with, and you'll believe it. And so I'm waiting to see if the best of us will rise up and say this cannot be, because our kids need to understand that truth is truth. There is a truth, and the rest of it is non-truth. How do we help them navigate that?
I guess I'm curious.
And the record is not a downer, I promise.
No. And we're going to get into some of the non-downer parts, I promise. But this is I'm really glad we're talking about this, because I want to get into a little bit about why this terrifies you. There's a line in evolution that's, is it beyond intelligence as if the soul need not exist? Does all this AI stuff make you feel like we could be replacing what makes music to you?
I'm the first person to say that I find God in nature. I find God in feeling and experiencing the molecules change. Like I can remember Carlos Santana, meeting him in a hotel lobby, and he'd been to a show that I'd played on, and he said, "You really changed the molecules." And a light bulb went off, like, oh yes, music is a physical experience. And to me, the fact that it comes from nowhere, it can only come from inside of a person. That to me is a beautiful definition of God. It is organic. It is, in the best case scenario, obviously anyone can sit down and craft a song, but then there will be songs that you don't have any idea where that came from. And when you play it to 5 people or 50,000 people, they are all affected by that. And it connects them. It connects them through this experience of the collective experience, and it changes your molecules. It does worry me that you now will be able to do that without spirit, without the personal life experience that goes in to writing a song like Yesterday. It bothers me. Because I think all we have are the hieroglyphics on the cave wall that tell us who those people were all the way until now. And we need art. We need art now, and we need music that tells our story now more than we've ever needed it. And yet we're going to bring in technology. Already algorithms are killing our ability to even not only listen to a whole song, but to experience it at a spiritual level. It's challenging that.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because so I had a similar experience to you actually on New Year's Day, actually about 12:30 a.m. on New Year's Day this year. I was at my friend's party. He's a musician. He says, "Come down to the studio downstairs. I got to show you something." And this is half hour into the year, and he shows me a similar kind of AI suite. He shows me him duetting with this woman with gorgeous voice, matching all of his inflections, matching his breath perfectly. I said, "Man, that's beautiful. Who is that?" And he went, "She does not exist. That is a creation of AI." And I got a little scared for, friends of mine who are voice actors. I got a little scared for friends of mine who are backup singers. I got a little, you were a backup singer yourself. Like I got a little scared for, occupationally, my friends who were songwriters and musicians. I had never considered, I knew I was feeling something, but I didn't know what it was. And I think you're hitting on it right there, that this stuff is also replacing the godliness of music, the communication of spirit to spirit that happens through art.
I remember when people were starting to use the tuning devices, right?
Yeah.
Records. Well, now every person who hears a song expects that the vocals are perfect. They are tuned, they're auto-tuned to the point where the auto-tuning is also a part of your timbre, right? People are losing the ability to even hear a vocalist sing with real heartfelt inflections that are not perfect and tuned and timed and everything else. And then we're moving beyond that to the point where we won't want to hear. We'll want to hire. We'll want to use AI for our background vocals over using a human any day of the week because we can make it perfect and we can make it sound like us. I mean, we're taking the need for humanity, for human, for the human experience, for heart, for soul, for spirit to be a part of it.
I think it's remarkable that when something terrifies you like this, you not only want to go sing about it, you want to do something about it. I mean, this goes back to your whole career, whether it's songs about gun rights or reproductive rights. I mean, or now with the rise of AI, where does that impulse come from in you to call things out that don't feel right to you?
I'm gonna have to say they come from Bernice and Wendell Crow, my parents. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think part of it is that my dad was a conservative, my mom was a liberal. We had many heated conversations at the dinner table, but they loved each other and they could hear each other, and that was my example. We don't really have that so much anymore right now. Everything is so heated that any conversation where we disagree, you're wrong, I'm right, and fuck you. I mean, so I grew up with dialogue, with conversations. I grew up with my dad, who was like Atticus Finch attorney. Small town, fought for the small guy. My mom was a person who, she delivered meals. I grew up in the civil rights movement in the early 70s. I watched our little town grapple with injustice and saw people rise to the occasion. And I think it's ingrained in me, but it's also, I'm programmed for it. And I think, to me, I grew up listening to artists who wrote songs that were, radio played for what it's worth. Radio played What's Going On. Radio played War, Edwin Starr. I mean, these songs got played on the radio and they were about something. And that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to write songs that were meaningful and that were good and that changed things. And how much of that is dream state? How much of that is realistic? When you're a kid, you follow that dream. And I wanted to be great. I wanted to be like my heroes.
But I don't want to give the impression to people who aren't as familiar with your story that you doing this has always been met by like kind dialogue or you know what I mean? I mean, like, famously back in the 90s, Love Is a Good Thing, which was about, how easy it is to buy guns at Walmart, ends up getting your album banned at Walmart. I don't want to talk specifically about that, but I want to know what it's like when you do experience backlash for a song or for speaking out.
Well, it's funny because on this record, I wrote a song called Broken Record because, I have been met with backlash, but now it's really easy because as artists, we're expected to be our own promotional, we run our own promotion, right? There are very few promotion departments in any record label now because they expect you to do your own self-promotion. You're your own brand and you propagate and promote that brand. But then you're also supposed to be very tough-skinned about the negativity that comes at you. And there is as much negativity as there is love, but it's much more hate-filled than love-filled, if you weigh them. And so we had a school shooting here right up the street from where I live. And I was outspoken about it. And of course, as you will see in America, people are very divided about it. So I was braced for the ugliness. I wasn't really braced for the death threats or having people show up at my house. But what I wasn't braced for was trying to get people in my community, in the country music world to not want to meet and discuss how we could navigate this with sensible gun laws to protect our kids because of the amount of money and the amount of social media following that I guess conservative artists don't want to lose. They can't risk standing up for even something that they might feel is right. And so I wrote a song about it. I don't know what to do anymore. I can't like go on programs and talk about what I think because it falls on deaf ears. So the only thing I know what to do is to go to the studio and pick up a guitar or sit at the piano, run a mic and barf it. You know what I mean? Just like unload it.
Does that help you too? Like in addition to like getting the word out, does that help you process it or, express some of that rage or?
It does. I mean, the only thing I can hope is that, I mean, I know that I'm not the only person that feels the way that I feel, that the only thing that can rectify anything is to, I mean, love is a very overused word, but whether love means compassion or empathy or at least an attempt at meeting somebody in the middle, that's the only thing that we can hope for. I mean, even when it comes to AI, when it comes to the future, the only thing we can do is tackle things from a place of what would push humanity forward in this situation. And for me, sitting down and writing Broken Record, I played it for my kids and they're like, you can't put that out. And I think they were worried, because in the song, it's like, why do you have to be an asshole? Is that what makes you feel powerful when your social media following gets all revved up? Like, yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So the only thing I can do is sit down and write a song. And I know that I'm not alone and that's what music does. Music gives other people who feel the same a place to feel like they are being heard or seen or that they're a part of the collective. It's
a lovely perspective to have, and I'm always really curious about where that kind of perspective comes from. And one of my favorite songs on the record is the second song, Do It Again. I really loved it. Oh. And it has this chorus, which is, and this is maybe me doing some classic overthinking here. It has this chorus, which is, all I know is wherever I go, there I am, which I just got this feeling might be a reference to this like really seminal book by Jon Kabat-Zinn called Wherever You Go, There You Are, which is about meditation. Mm-hmm. Am I right about that?
Yes, you're right.
Yes. Okay, great. And then I thought, meditation and mindfulness is a big part of my life, a big part of my daily practice. And I wondered if...
I too. I went and studied with Sharon Salzberg.
I love Sharon Salzberg. When did you study with Sharon? So Sharon Salzberg, people don't know.
Oh my God.
Legendary mindfulness teacher and especially loving kindness and compassion teacher in the U.S. So mindfulness and meditation is a big part of your life.
Yes. Yeah. And actually was a game changer 27 years ago. I went to outside of Boston. She works in that area in meditation, in mindfulness. And I went and sat with her. A friend of mine said, you need to meet this woman. And I went to her apartment. It was very, very strange. Because you're just walking into somebody's house and you're kind of just like throwing yourself down and saying, fix me, and meditation that's why they call it a practice. You don't leave her apartment doing it perfect. It is a practice. But it did change. Not only did it change my life over time and over years, and it helped me navigate some very low lows. And it also, I think in many ways serves to help me remember every single day who I am, and that who I am that is not connected to ego, but the thing that came in through somebody else's body and was guided throughout life by this inner compass. That's who we all are. And you have to actually sit and listen to that in order to live by it, and it's a work in progress. But I love her. But anyway, carry on. Yes.
Well,
do it again. That's what the whole song is about.
What do you
It
mean?
is. The whole song of Do It Again is like you get every single day. I tell my boys this. Okay, you get every day is a do-over. Like you wake up in the morning, sun comes up, you get to make of that day whatever you want to make of it. I mean, yeah, there might be some residue from yesterday if you hang on to it, but if you let go of it, you get to write the script. And and even in the song, it's like, I'm going to fuck it up again. But tomorrow I get to do it again. I get to do it again, you know? But I mean, I'm going to try to do it better. And I'm going to try to look more and watch more and judge less. And it's all that.
Earlier in our conversation, I noticed you said something like you were like talking about the idea of like spirituality in music and that you can change the molecules of the world around you through your music. And what you didn't say is that songwriters who all of their songs have the ability to kind of transmit God and spirit through them. What you said was every now and then you get a couple of songs. Every now and then you get a couple of songs that are able to do that. And what that tells me is you think it's not all of them, it's just a couple of them. I'll put you on the spot. Do you think of some of your songs in that way? Oh, that one is one like that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I absolutely, unequivocally, songs that came out of nowhere that wrote themselves.
Like what?
Redemption Day is a song that, I mean, I still, when I play the song, when I hear it, it's mind boggling to me because that is not, I don't even write that way. Like, I don't write in stanzas like Bob Dylan-esque cadences. River Wide was that way. It came from a devastating breakup with someone I really loved, who had turned me onto this poem by Walt Whitman called "Among the Multitude" from his book Leaves of Grass. And just sitting down in the quiet, broken moments of not having, you know, it's really easy when you figure out how songs work to craft a song. You know, you write a verse, you write a B section, you write a chorus, then you come back, you write the second verse, which gives you more of an insight into this, that, and the other, and then the B section and then the chorus, and then you have a bridge, which gives you the whole, like, this is what the whole thing is, and now we're going to celebrate with our double chorus at the end. And there's all kinds of craftsmanship that goes into writing a great pop song. But then there are those songs where you're not really in it. You're not dictating it. You're basically serving it or rendering it or just letting it go. And I've had a few of those, you know, that I would say are the direct result of my getting out of the way, you know. Weather Channel is one of them. I mean, my favorite mistake is one of them.
Really? That one just came out?
That one came out. I mean, there were bits and pieces of it that I had to fill in the blanks, but Jeff Trott started playing this guitar riff, and I started playing on bass and doing it on mic, and the song basically, I sang it down, and a lot of it we kept. And you don't get that very often. I think sometimes it's just being able to, or not being able, it's just unconscious. I don't know. I can't, if I could explain it, I would do it every day, every song.
Yeah, I get that. Sharon Salzberg says that. Sharon Salzberg says, I can't really explain any further than that because it goes beyond words. Jeez, this podcast is sponsored, by the way, by Sharon Salzberg. Not to get you to play the hits too much here, but the office full of big Sheryl Crow fans. People listening to this across Canada, big Sheryl Crow fans. And we were talking about All I Want to Do the other day. And we were talking about, and if you're listening to this, I'm sure you know the song, big hit for Sheryl Crow, maybe the first big hit for Sheryl Crow.
Yeah.
But based on a poem. I mean, speaking of songs coming from elsewhere.
Yeah.
Would you mind telling me? I've never heard you tell that. Can you tell that story?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I got to know Bill Bottrell, this producer, a little bit through this guy I was dating, Kevin Gilbert, and they invited me to get together and jam. It was the second jam. It was a whole bunch of guys, and one of the very first things we did was, well, we used to go hang out at this place called the Olive. We'd drink and smoke and this group of guys they were all artists and very intelligent and conspiracy theorists. And it was just, for me, very mind expanding, to be in a group of such literati. And so we go out, we drink a bunch of margaritas, we hit a bookstore, land on this book, and we bought a whole bunch of books. But this one little pamphlet called, I think maybe it was called Fun. I think it was called Fun by a guy named Wynn Cooper, very small. And we jammed that night on like something that felt like Stealers Wheel meets Let's Party, the Marvin Gaye. And I just opened the book and started to, all I want to do is have a little fun before I die. So the man next to me out of nowhere, and it was the poem exactly. And the chorus was all I want to do. We wrote the chorus, but the rest of it was his lyric or his poem. And so I thought, well, okay, I'll write new lyrics for it. I wrote 5 different sets of lyrics that never came close. And so finally I just wound up like, I got to track this guy down. No cell phones, no internet. Found out, through his publishing company, called him and said, okay, weird thing. I'm a nobody, putting out a record. I found this in a bookstore and we're going to give you half of this song. And the song's probably never going to do anything, but we're going to give you half of it. And that was it. And even to the end of like mastering, I kept saying, I don't know about putting that song on the record. I don't know. And my brother, who was in college, was like, oh, that's the best song on the record. My friends and I love that. That's going to be your biggest hit. And then it was. So.
I hope he called you and said like, hey, Sheryl, thanks for the new chimney I put in my house or something like
that. He wound up, he was at the Grammys and everything, it just like, those are those moments where you go, what just happened in my life?
Speaking of what happened in my life, you got a little bit of distance on that right now. A few months ago, you were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
You perform at the awards. There's Olivia Rodrigo there with you. She is facing the same sort of massive fame that you faced back then. And there's some other parallels too. She, like you back then, is matching like massive like pop fame, tabloid fame, and like critical acclaim. These things don't come together very often. She kind of has that as well. What advice did you have for her? Did you have any advice for her when you were talking to her?
I'll be honest with you. The kind of machine that she has to navigate is it's mine on steroids. When I was going through it, we didn't have social media. It was not as magnified. She's got a pretty good network around her. Her mom is very involved. Her mom does not seem to me like a stage mom. She's got her feet on the ground. I really, really, it's funny. The more I've gotten to know her, the more I even like her music. She's very bright. The only advice I said to her was stay out of the reviews, because that for me, after the second record, was something that for my own mental health, I really needed to just shut that down. You can't say to somebody, stay out of social media, because that is the machine, which, but we did talk about it. And I said, you cannot take any of it seriously. There's a great book called The Four Agreements. I don't know if you're familiar with that book, written by, his last name is Ruiz, Ruiz. I've given it to everybody I know. And it's very simple, but it's very, very profound. And the four agreements are, don't take things personally, don't make assumptions, make your word impeccable, and do the best you can. Okay, if you can live by those 4 things, but one of the things that we do is we assume that where somebody is coming from has to do with you. And so much of the hate that comes at us is about the person who's wielding the hate. And it may sound simple, but it can have a profound effect if you can tune that out. If you could not make the assumption what somebody's thinking or what they're not thinking. Okay, so-and-so didn't like my post. I'm assuming they don't like that song, or they didn't like that, maybe they just didn't get on social media today. There's so many different ways to beat yourself up and to make yourself feel less than. But somebody else's advice doesn't necessarily resonate until the second it resonates. But that was my advice to her. Just don't take any of it too seriously. Stay in the work. The work is what is gratifying.
Tell me this isn't the last collection of songs or album from Sheryl Crow. You got a couple more in you?
I'm going to say it's the last album after every album. No. I don't know, man. I gotta be honest. It's funny. You get older, right? And that's when you really have learned how to do it. But you're older, so no one's going to hear it, right? Because you're older. So it's a funny thing. I feel like writing all the time now. And I feel like my best work is happening now. I'm going to keep doing it whether anybody ever hears it or not. It's the only thing I know how to do. And it also, for me, is my antidepressant.
Sheryl, what a joy, man. Always. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom. Hey, we need to get together and meditate.
That's the first time anyone's ever said that to me, but I've never been so in my entire life.